classes. I got a crazy teacher who wears dark glasses. Things are going great, and they're only getting better.
Hi, this is Dr. Bain, and this is a brief video on whole messages. I'm going to go fairly quickly because this is supposed to back up or supplement the reading that we have in our real world communication textbook. Whole messages content is based on a textbook by McKay, Davis, and Fanning called Messages, the Communication Skills Book. All right, let's look at the elements of a whole message. Observation, these are statements of fact. They're neutral. Thought, our whole belief, our own belief. Opinions, theories, interpretations. Feelings are affective expressions that clarify the intensity of what we're feeling. They might also clarify the duration and the context. And then finally, the need statement is what we need from the other person as a result of the message we've just sent. So that's the big picture. Let's dig down a little deeper. Observations. These are statements of fact. They're neutral. You ask me to call you whenever this happens with your patients. Observation. This is something I heard. Observations are typically things that we can see with our own eyes or hear. In some way, we have sensed them with one of our five senses. Another characteristic of an observation statement is that they can be confirmed by other people because they were sensed by other people as well. They were observed by other people. So if you say, this is what I saw or this is what I heard, then you're talking about an observation. And those would be the two most typical kinds of observations you're likely to use. The thought statement is our own belief, opinion, theory, interpretation. I understood that to mean any time of the day or night. So you can see this is someone's interpretation of an observation, someone's interpretation of what was heard. They are not conveyed as absolute truth, but they should be stated as a hypothesis or an understanding. So door openers for a thought statement include, my idea was, I wonder if, I'm thinking that, I suspect that, I'm worried that. Another one could be the way I understood it or the way I saw it was. Each of those are stated or open the thought of a hypothesis or an interpretation, and they don't include language that elicits defensiveness. The third piece is a feeling statement. So it clarifies the intensity, duration, and context of our feeling. And the thing that really separates a feeling statement from a thought statement, which is these are the two kinds that people get most confused about, are the use of emotion words. I'm frustrated by your angry words and the tone of your voice. Frustrated, that's a form of an emotion. They should include a little bit more than I feel, okay? I feel angry. That's not really enough because, see, they're supposed to include the context. We need to explain what we mean by the word that we're using. I feel angry, well, that takes on a lot of meaning. Upset can be a whole bunch of things. Feeling statement could be clearer if we explained how long the feeling's been present, and it helps the other person gauge how serious it is. I want you to be aware that not every message requires this kind of structure with these four parts, and I'm aware of that. But the usefulness of whole messages goes long beyond what you might have imagined as you start trying to practice them. Whole messages are great tools for complex issues that are inevitable in working out relationships. They can be prepared in advance if you're trying to approach someone about a difficult issue. With practice, you'll find that you're using them habitually. Let's take a look real quickly at the emotion words that I have a link to here on this page. This is the diagram. It comes from Wiki Commons, but I actually pulled it from Psychology Today article. That's what the link is to. That gives you a great idea of some emotion words that you may find useful. My experience is that people think emotions don't belong at work. But the truth is your emotions are with you at work and with all the people you work with, whether you want them to be or not. And so if we acknowledge them, things tend to be a lot healthier and you tend to be able to work through tension and conflicts. And we'll come back to that in a minute when we talk about partial messages. All right, the last statement in a whole message is the need statement. And this is when we identify what we need as a result of the situation we've just described. I need you to change your tone of voice and use words that acknowledge I'm doing what you asked. You can see this is a situation where it kind of sounds like somebody called this person and this person, when they understood they were supposed to, and this person responded in a very angry way. Need statements can be simplified by stating, I need, at the beginning. It's the best door opener because it's crystal clear. If you say I need, then it sets up the listener for what's coming next. So they begin to understand, okay, well, here it comes. This is what they want from me. And if you ask for a behavior instead of an attitude, a mood, or a value, how many times have each of us used, I need you to change your attitude? But the thing is that attitudes are something that are internal and they can't be observed. So what happens is somebody says, well, I did change my attitude, and you go, well, no, you didn't. And the person says, hey, I'm thinking differently, but that person might go, wow, I'm thinking differently, I did what you thought, and you're saying to yourself, hey, I don't see any change in behavior. So we have to identify the actual behaviors that we want changed, and that's what this example is designed to show. I need you to change your tone of voice. If we say, I need you to change how you sound, that's not terribly specific, but it's better than I need you to change your attitude, which might be, in the receiver's mind, ticked off at me when I did what you asked me to do. Let's take a look at another example. I've noticed that you aren't offering to help other nurses when you have a chance. Cooperation is essential. There's my interpretation. We're getting hammered about cooperation. It's an important part of being able to take care of patients. I'm surprised to see this and a little disappointed. I need you to tell me what's keeping you from cooperating. There's a very specific behavior there that person is asking for. Let's look at partial messages. What happens when we leave one of these four elements out? Okay, let's look at partial messages. Partial messages are when we leave out one of the four elements, and they create confusion and distrust. If we leave out the observation, the topic can be hard to determine. So that doesn't give the person any opportunity to sort of say, what are you basing this on? That's the question that will come. What are you talking about? So we have to have the observation. What did we see, hear? Maybe we smelled something, tasted something, touched something. One of the five senses, that's part of the observation. Leaving out thoughts can make the message sound whiny or half-baked, because then all you have is observation, feeling, and need. So this leads to hearing conclusions that don't have supporting evidence. Got to have that thought statement in there. That's where we get the evidence. That's where the person understands the conclusions that we drew. If we leave out the feeling statement, we get what my friend Bob Mendonça calls terminal professionalism. We'd often like to leave our emotions at the door. This is what I was referring to earlier, but it's really impossible. Every day we walk through the door at work, the emotions are with us. So we may as well include them. That doesn't mean that we don't taper them. That doesn't mean that we don't put some boundaries on them, control them. but we have to include them because they just can't be left out. They're there anyway. So acknowledging them makes for terrific conflict management and conflict prevention. Finally, if we leave out the need statement, the other person is left to think, so what do you want me to do? So what? Which of course is typically not what we're shooting for in that kind of conversation. Partial messages, they just make things messed up. So the other way we can screw up whole messages is to create a contaminated message. I know what your problem is. You like to get paid, but you don't like to work. Whoa, that's definitely contaminated. There's all kinds of vim and vigor and attitude and just really angriness in there. So let's take a look at what happens. Contaminated messages are where nonverbal behaviors betray our words. They don't match. That's actually also what sarcasm is, but contaminated messages have more. They create confusion and they alienate people around us. They are very difficult for others to interpret. And sometimes we have done this strategically because we don't want to be interpreted accurately. Sometimes we use contaminated messages, even unintentionally, to hide the emotion that we're feeling. So what do? Here's how we avoid them. Separate and express each part of the whole message. Use all 4 parts. That's why they're great door openers, because they completely eliminate contamination. Increase your self-awareness. Wonder, did I just leave out an important piece? Did I leave out my interpretation? Is this person wondering, so what? Have I just created terminal professionalism? Be more self-aware of including observation, thought, feeling, need. Make messages receiver-centered. Imagine what the person you're talking to needs to understand the message. Use that to create it. And don't forget the context in which you are delivering the message. Are you delivering it in an open, loud place where maybe a complicated situation is not appropriate to talk about? Are you delivering it in a situation where people are getting laid off in another department and it's creating additional stress? Whatever's going on, pay attention to the context and take that into account when crafting the whole message. So I want you to practice some whole messages. I'm going to encourage you to share them with other people. See if they sound contaminated. Trust me, people around you know if they're contaminated. And you can also put them on the blog or on the buzz and share, hey, what do you guys think? Does this sound like a whole message? Share with each other. I'll start a thread for you. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Better. I'm doing alright, getting good grades, future's so bright. I gotta wear shades, I gotta wear